Hey guys, welcome back to the video series where we're comparing the Bushmaster ACR to the FNH SCAR 16S. In our last video, we took a closer look at the Bushmaster ACR. We disassembled it, we talked about the features of the rifle, and in this video, we're going to do the same with the SCAR 16S. So let's get started. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the SCAR 16S. The SCAR 16S does have a 3-position adjustable buttstock. First, you can fold the stock by depressing this button here, and the stock does lock in the folded position. To unlock it from the folded position, you just push or pull. I'm going to push here, and it pops free, and then the operator can lock it back in the extended position. You can also adjust the length of pull. There's a button on the left-hand side of the stock. Let me show you what that button looks like. That's the button right here. Just by depressing that button, you can adjust that length of pull. Next, you have a button that allows you to adjust the cheek cone. It has 2 positions, up and down. And again, let me show you where that button is. It's right here. So you just press that button and that adjusts the cheek cone. Moving forward, we have an AR-15 style grip. This does come off. It's not permanently molded into the rifle like with the ACR. So you can remove this grip and replace it with another grip. It isn't a standard AR-15 grip. It's slightly different, so there would be fitment issues. However, you can put an AR-15 grip on it if you would like. Other companies are making grips for this rifle. Right now, US Palm makes the battle grip for it, and I'm sure other third-party grips will be coming along. The rifle does have an ambidextrous selector lever for the fire control, which you can see on the other side of the rifle here. Right there. And it does have an ambidextrous magazine release. So you can press this button to release the magazine, and then here on the other side of the receiver, you have a magazine release button there as well. The rifle does use standard AR-15 M16 magazines, and it does work with PMags with a slight modification. You can see one of my other videos that shows you how to modify your PMags so they'll work in the SCAR 16 and not cause damage to the rifle. The rifle also has a bolt hold device that is actually on the left-hand side of the receiver only. It is not ambidextrous, and it's in the position where you would expect it to be on an AR-15 or M16. It's very similar. The rifle also has a monolithic rail system. So you have a rail that runs the full length of the upper receiver here, and then you have 2 short rails, one on either side, and then you have a rail here on the bottom. The rifle also has fold-away sights. Now the front sight locks both in the folded and the extended position. There's a little button that you pull and that releases it so it can fold. The rear sight, however, just has a detent, so it'll snap in the folded position and it'll snap in the up position. It's also adjustable, the rear is, for both windage and elevation, and then it also has flip sights here in the rear, much like the AR-15, so you have a long-range sight and a combat sight. It does have an adjustable gas system here in the front. It has the gas regulator, both high and low cycle. And then it has a muzzle brake here on the end of the barrel. And this is more of a muzzle brake than it is a flash suppressor, although it does suppress the flash somewhat. It's more of a muzzle brake, and it's highly effective. It's a very good muzzle brake. Now, you don't have much recoil on a 5.56 rifle, but it still makes recoil almost negligible. I mean, you can't even feel it, really. So, the rifle also has a charging handle that's ambidextrous in that you can move it from one side or the other. This is the charging handle. So to put this charging handle on the opposite side of the rifle, you have to disassemble the rifle. You pull the bolt to the rear to the takedown notch here. You pull the charging handle out. You put it in on the opposite side and let the bolt go home. And you've just changed how that operates. So let's take a look at the rifle disassembled, and I'll show you some of the features of the rifle from the inside, and we'll go from there. To disassemble the SCAR 16S, first you'll check that the weapon's clear, grab the charging handle, pull it to the rear, and inspect the chamber. Next, you'll push this pin out and pull it until it stops. It locks and does not come out of the lower receiver. From there you'll see that the lower receiver will pull down away from the upper receiver. Just pull it down slightly and pull forward, and it pulls free of the weapon. Next, we'll remove the buttstock. And to remove the buttstock, you just simply pull up on it. The charging handle can be pulled to the rear, but first there's a buffer assembly that when you pull rearward on the charging handle, you'll see that it hits this lip. So you'll want to pull up slightly on this as you pull the charging handle to the rear, and this will free up the carrier and recoil spring so it can slide out the rear of the receiver. Pull the charging handle to the takedown point, and then just pull the pin out. Now it's worth noting at this point, you can simply just reinsert it on the other side of the rifle and reverse the operation of the charging handle. And everything just slides out the rear. And now we have our bolt carrier group that you can disassemble. For that, we can use the tip of a bullet. You have a firing pin retaining pin, which you can just push out with the tip of a bullet. Once you have that out, you can push the bolt rearward in its carrier. The firing pin will come out, and then you have a cam pin that will also come out. Once you've removed all those pieces, the bolt comes free of the carrier, and the rifle is disassembled. So now that we've disassembled both rifles, let's take a closer look at the components side by side. We have the SCAR 16S here on my left side, and we have the ACR components on my right side. What you're looking at is the bolt carrier group from each of the rifles. Now the first thing that you'll notice is that the ACR uses and this is the ACR piece, the ACR uses a much smaller carrier. It doesn't extend out over the barrel like the SCAR carrier does. The ACR uses a gas piston that sits over the barrel and acts upon the very front of the carrier here. The SCAR, on the other hand, has a longer carrier and has a short gas piston contained in the front sight block that acts upon the very end of the carrier here. They both are short stroke gas pistons, meaning they do not travel the full length of the recoil impulse with the rifles. They only move, in case of the SCAR, maybe an inch or so. The piston moves rearward, and maybe about 2 inches or so with the ACR. You'll also notice that both rifles use a bolt system that's very similar to the AR-15M16. The ACR has 7 lugs, and the SCAR uses 6 lugs. You're now looking at the lower assemblies of each of the rifles. Again, we have the SCAR 16S on my left and the ACR on my right. As I noted in the ACR video, the ACR makes use of M16 AR-15 style components. And you'll notice that the SCAR has no components that are compatible with the AR-15 or M16. All of the trigger components are unique to the SCAR. They're both made of polymer. They're both very lightweight, be about the same weight. And you'll notice that they both have fire control selectors on either side of the receivers. Now it's worth noting that the SCAR has a large selector lever on the left-hand side and a smaller selector lever on the right-hand side. The ACR has a smaller profile selector on both sides. It's the same size. You're now looking at the recoil springs. The SCAR recoil spring here and the ACR recoil spring. The ACR's recoil spring is actually captured in the carrier. So when you insert the recoil spring, you'll see on the tip here how it pushes through, rotates, and locks, holding the spring with the carrier. To disassemble, you just push it forward, rotate it to its takedown notch, and the spring slides free. The SCAR's recoil assembly just simply fits in the rear of the bolt. Here we have the stocks for both of the rifles. We have the SCAR 16S on the left and the ACR on the right. The stocks are both very lightweight, similar size, and as we've already covered, are fully adjustable. All right, so now we've had a chance to take a look at the ACR and the SCAR 16S in detail. We've disassembled them, we've compared their various components, and I think you guys have a pretty good understanding of how each of these rifles work and how they're made and their basic principles behind their design. So in our next video, we're going to take these rifles out to the range and we're going to do some shooting with them. I want you guys to get a feel for how these rifles perform, how they handle, and I'm going to talk about those handling characteristics, and then we'll move into another video where we'll actually talk about the accuracy, we'll compare them to each other, and we'll do some testing with removing the barrels and testing the zero. Also in the next video, I failed to mention, when we do the shooting on the range, I want to talk about some of the quirks that these rifles have, and they both have their quirks. Neither one of them is perfect in my mind. Some of the quirks are worse than others. And we'll cover that in the next video that I put together. I am leaving for vacation, I'm sorry to say, guys, so it's probably going to be over a week and a half before I get the next video up, but it is coming, and stay tuned. And I also want to thank everybody for watching the Military Arms channel. I'm very glad that you guys enjoy the channel. I thank you for your feedback. And speaking about that feedback, we do have a Facebook page now. You can go to Facebook and you can search for Military Arms channel, and you'll find our page. Like that page, and then you'll have access to behind-the-scenes information. I'll post comments about videos that we're shooting. I also have a couple of discussions going where I'm asking you, the viewers, what would you like to see in future videos, including what would you like to see me do with these two rifles? What are some of the things that you're curious about and you would like to know about the SCAR versus the ACR? Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate your subs, and I look forward to producing the rest of these videos, and I hope you're looking forward to seeing them. Thanks again.